The railway demanded much of its drivers and firemen. To coin a current phrase, it was a 24/7 job. Younger men relished the variety of work, and it was only when they got married or started a family that the unsocial hours caused family conflicts.
Some people couldn't take it once they got onto the railway and got onto shift work because the hours were atrocious. It was a 24 hours a day job.
When you went out on a mainline job, you never knew when you were coming back. It could be 6 o'clock or it could be 9 o'clock. If you couldn't get to a relieving point to be relieved by another set of men, you couldn't leave your engine. You had to stop there. However long it took you, you just stood.
But when I started firing, you could go out 7 o'clock at night, midnight, it was all sorts of hours.
I know that a lot of chaps who started with me, and things seemed to go right until they got married, and then the next thing they were off. As soon as they got married, the wives got them off the railway. They weren't having that sort of a setup, but they seem to wait till they get married and then put their oar in.
I was courting then with Doreen. I mean, we've been married now nearly 50 years. But if I was on afternoons, going to work at, say, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we'd never see each other for a week on end. It was longer sometimes.
The reason why I left was because Thelma couldn't stand the terrible hours of going on and not knowing when you were coming back. And she got so very fed up about it. It came to the point where it was either pack my job up or break my marriage up. And I wasn't prepared to break my marriage up, so I packed my job up.
If you wanted social life, and I was one of those sort of teenagers that did, and you just simply had to fight every inch of the way to get any social life. We had so many turns where you finished at 9 and past at night, and these turns, you couldn't bend them in any way, shape or form, or alter them or get finished early. So you used to just have to get on the shed, go and book off, run as fast as your legs would carry you up that field opposite the steam shed. I used to get home. I used to be picking my overalls off as I was going through the backyard, hang them up, straight upstairs, wash, change, and out in 10 minutes, running down Windsor Hill with my handkerchief getting all soap and soot out of my ears. And I used to arrive in the old hall, because closing times then were very rigid, 10:30, and it'd be a case of having 4 or 5 pints pulled straight away, wouldn't it? And I used to do that frequently.
My father was on the railway. Didn't see a lot of him at home. And when I was about 11, and my mum said, "I've heard something on the news." She said, "Go down the road to this old fireman that was on the railway and ask him if he knows anything about your dad." So I set off and I knocked on this door and this little man came out and I said, "My mum sent me. Do you know if my dad's all right?" I didn't know why she'd sent me. So he said, "Don't know. Come on, we'll go down to the phone box." You see, nobody had got phones, so nobody could ring you and you couldn't ring them. So he took me down to the phone box and must have rung up the shed. And he came off the phone and he says, "Now you go home and you tell your mum your dad's all right and be home soon." Right, so I tootled off home. And my dad was in the crash at Chapel. He was the fireman of the engine that the other engine had run into. And she must have heard something on the news. She was worried about him, but nobody came to tell you anything. He came home, he went back to work the day after. Well, my mother always told me never to marry a railway man.